Hey guys, and welcome back to the Resident 4 tutorial. Today is part 4 of creating our animal AI. In this one we're going to be going over how to attack the AI, deal damage to it, and have it die as well. So again, another simple addition onto our code. Now, while I've been making these, you guys have been coming up with a lot of improvements to do on this, and I'm going to be doing those after I finish the main part of this series. So one key one is for the movement and the turning. I'm going to do that at the end. It's a very simple fix which I could do in 30 seconds right now. However, not everyone might watch all of the videos, so someone might not watch this one, but they still want to improve it, so I'm going to make a video dedicated to those improvements at the end. So without further ado, let's get right into this one. So the first thing we want to do is we want to open up our animal blueprint. So for me, that's new deer doe BP here. All I want to do is again just find some empty space, so this is the code we've got at the moment. I'll find some empty space over here. I'm going to right click, I'm going to add a custom event, naming this one take damage, like so. Out of this, I'm going to hold down B and left click to get a branch, connecting that in there. And the condition of this wants to be a boolean of is dead. So I'm going to hit a plus variable here, naming this one is dead, question mark. I'm going to leave that as a boolean, compile, default value false, and I'll give this one a category of damage. So again, I'm just categorizing everything to keep them nice and organized. And that's going to connect into the condition of that branch there, because we don't want to deal more damage to the animal if it's already dead. So what we're also going to do actually is we'll get is dead and then get a not boolean. So it's is not dead. So that way we can just come out true of this branch. Just again, keep it looking nicer. So if the animal is not dead. True, we want to deal damage. So we're going to create some more variables again. So I'm going to hit the plus variable here, naming this one health. This is obviously going to be an integer. And I'm going to give it the category of damage again. There we go. Create another variable, naming this one damage. Keeping it as integer, category of damage. And then another one of max health. Integer, and then damage there, like so. Compile and save that, and now we can change their default values. So let's go on health. The default value I want for the health is I'm just going to have as 100. So the animal has 100 health. Again, you can set this to whatever you want. So if it's more of a beefy animal, you can increase it. So I'm using a deer, so 100 sounds about right. But if you're doing maybe a wolf or a lion or a tiger, you might want to set it up to 200. You choose what you want for this. For the damage, I'm going to have the default value as 2. So by default, we're going to deal 2 damage. But again, we're going to set this up so we can set the actual damage later on in the code. The max health, I'm also going to set as 100. Compile and save that. So then again, out of true of this branch, so we want to deal damage if the animal is not dead, we're going to set the health. So we get set health there. What we want to do is we just want to decrease the health into this. So we're going to get the health under here as well. So get health, drag out of that and get an integer minus an integer, with the bottom value being the damage. So we're going to be taking the damage from the health. This is going to go into a clamp integer. So we're going to clamp it between two values, minimum being 0, maximum being our max health there. Again, this just keeps it to a nice number, which we want. Return value of the clamp is going to go into the set health there. So what we're doing is if we want to deal damage to the animal and it's not already dead, we're just going to decrease the health by the amount of damage that we want to deal to it. Out of this set health, we're going to get an equal, so an equal integer, because we want to see if it's dead or not. So we're going to deal the damage and then see if we've killed it in that one. So we'll leave it as 0, because if the health is 0, then it's dead. So we're going to hold down B, left click to get a branch, connecting that into there, and condition into the return value there. Off of true, this is what's going to happen when the animal dies. So we're going to drag and drop a reference to the character movement here, and then stop movement immediately, as obviously it's dead, so it's going to stop moving. Again, that's off of true. And then off of this, we're going to set the boolean is dead, and we're going to set it to true, so tick it. So we're going to stop movement, and then set it so the code knows that the animal is now dead. Then after this, we want to play animation, using the function that we have made previously. The animation of this is going to be the death animation that we have. So let's see what it's called. It's going to be deer doe death. So here we are, animate deer doe death, like so. So when it dies, it's going to play this animation, and I'm not going to loop this one. Then I'm going to hold down D, left click to get a delay. Then underneath this, I'm going to right click and get a random integer in range, connect the return value into the duration, getting a 2 float automatically, like so. The minimum I'm going to have as 60, maximum as 120. And what this means is that after the AI has died, a random time between 1 and 2 minutes later, it's going to despawn. So by default, it's going to stay there, so the animal will stay in place after it's died. And then between 1 and 2 minutes later, it's going to despawn. Because out of completed, we're going to get destroy actor. Again, if you don't want it to despawn, don't do the delay and destroy actor. or if you want to get rid of it immediately, don't do the delay. But again, what this means is a minute and 2 minutes, it's going to despawn. You can set those values to whatever you like, so you can set it to 5 seconds and 10 seconds, 2 minutes and 5 minutes, 5 minutes and 10 minutes. Choose whatever you want, but I don't want it to be around for too long, because then obviously the more you have, the more laggy the game will get, and I just don't want it to despawn immediately as soon as the player kills it, because that will look quite bad. So I'm going to have it as between 1 minute and 2 minutes later. Then we're going to come back to this branch here, so if it's dead or not, because then we want to do something if it's not dead. So if we deal damage and it doesn't kill it, what we want to do is again get the stop movement immediately, so we can copy and paste that down there. And what I'll do is I'll actually just put that in there like so. But this time, we're going to come out to stop movement immediately and play animation. Again, call function there. I'm going to move this down a little bit actually. And this animation is going to be deer doe get hit, because the get hit animation is the one for dealing damage to it. After this, we're going to set our boolean of should run to true. Also, don't loop the animation. So we're going to set should run to true, because this then means it's going to be hit, it then wants to run away, which again is using this code that we've created previously of run away here. So it's going to run away when we hit it. So then I'm going to hold down D, left click to get a delay after the should run. Duration of this is going to be 0.7. I'm doing that because that's the length of this animation. So if I hit browse there, I open this animation, you see the length of it is about 0.7 seconds. 0.67, so I round up to 0.7. So for the animation you are using, get the length of it and put that into the duration there. Because what we're going to do is after the completion of that, we're going to stop animation with the call function there, so it's going to go back to our normal animation blueprint. After that, we're going to hold down B, left click to get a branch with the condition of is dead. So we've got the condition of is dead there. And out of false, we're going to get decide next action call function, and I'm going to tick skip delay. I'll go through that part again. So if we hit it, we're going to stop moving it, play the animation for it being hit, and tell it to run away after the animation is finished, and then we're going to stop the animation. The reason we've got the is dead again here, because you'll see we have it at the start, what this means is because the player might be spamming it. So if the player spams it, what's going to happen is it might die just before this delay here, which means that will be true, and then we don't want it to start moving, because what might happen is you might kill the animal, and then it will just start moving anyway while it's dead on the floor, which obviously we don't want, so we just want to double check it again there. That's going to decide next action, which again is going to tell it to run away using this boolean here. I've gone skip delay because I don't want it to wait and then run. As soon as it's hit, I want it to start running away. So we can compile and save that, and that's the code for dealing damage. So I'm going to select all that, hit C to comment it, and name this one take damage. And what we want to do next is we can compile and save again, is we want to create the code for regenerating the health. So we've done it for taking damage, now we want to regenerate the health. So just underneath this, I'm going to right click and add a custom event again, naming this regen health or add health or anything that you want to name it. And we're going to do a very similar system. So what we're going to do is we're going to hold down B, left click to get another branch again, because we want to check something else. The condition of this wants to be if it hasn't got the full health and it's not running away. So I'm going to get health here, so drag and drop get health. Out of this, I'm going to get a less than integer, so an integer is less than an integer, with the bottom integer being the max health there. So essentially, if the AI doesn't have max health. This is going to go into an AND boolean, because we want to make sure this and something else is true. What we want to make sure is true as well is if it's not running away. So we're going to get should run there. That is going to go into a not boolean, and that will go into the AND there. So if the health is less than the maximum health and the animal is not running away, we can then do the rest of the code for regenerating the health. So that goes into the condition of the branch there. And the reason why I've done this should run not as well is because I want to make sure that it can't regen health when it's running, because otherwise it will be very hard for the player to kill. Because you imagine if it's constantly running away and regening health, it's going to be quite hard. So I want it to be it can regen health when it isn't running away. That makes more sense for me, and I feel like that's a more fair system to have. So out of false of the branch, we don't want to do anything because that means we can't regen the health. Out of true of the branch, all we want to do is increase the health. So we're going to get a set health there. And actually what we can do is just copy this code here. So where we have health minus damage into a clamp with max health and then set health there, and the equal and branch actually as well. What I'm going to do is select all that, hit Control C, Control V to put that down here, connecting it up to there like so. And what we're going to do is just delete the minus and change it for an addition. So health plus an integer, putting that into damage, that into the value and the clamp there. And then the damage we're going to change to be a new variable. So we're going to hit a plus variable again, naming this health gain, making it an integer, and I'm going to put it in the category of damage. And if I compile that, I'm going to change its default value as well. So I want the default value for health gain to be 3. Again, you set this whatever you want, but I want it to go up by 3 health every time, and compile that. And then we can just drag and drop health gain onto damage there to change it over. And then you can see we're going to add the health gain to the health, going into the set health there, and the bottom value of the equal we want to be max health, because this is obviously going to check to see if we've reached the maximum health. So do we want to keep increasing the health or not? If we have reached the max health, we don't want to keep increasing it, so we're going to come out false there. So true will go into nothing, and a false we want to create a loop of this to keep increasing the health. So that'll go into a delay, so I hold down D, left click to get a delay. Duration of this I'm going to set to be 1 second, again to keep it nice and easy. And out of the completed, we're going to call function regen health, or whatever you've named it, just to create a nice loop here. And so now that should work perfectly for us. So we're going to regen health if we have less than the maximum amount of health, and we're not running away. Like I say, it's then going to add health gain to the health, clamping it for the max health. If it's equal to the max health, it's going to do nothing. If it's not, it's going to loop it to keep regenning it. And like I say, out of false here, that's also going to break the loop. So if we can't regen health, the loop will break there. So you'll then have to call this function of regen health again. If you want, you can connect false into this delay here. So it will then continually loop this as well, checking for when it can regen health. However, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to make sure I recall the custom event when I want it. But again, if you connect that in there, that's perfectly fine as well. So now what I'm going to do is select this, hit C to comment it, naming this one regen health, like so. So I'm going to compile and save that. And what I want to set up next is a basic system for me to damage the AI. So like I showed you in the project overview, I'm going to create a very simple system where I can just essentially throw a ball and that's going to hit the animal and deal damage to it. You'll want a more efficient way in your game, for example a gun or a weapon or punching it, anything like that. But that's not the purpose of this one. I'm going to show you the core fundamental coding behind attacking it and showing the damage, but the actual visual method of attacking it, I'm not going to go over. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to minimize this, and I'm going to create a projectile. So let me just put that to default again. And then if I go to content, projectile, I'm going to create it in this folder here. So I'm going to right click, go to blueprint class, I'm going to create an actor, and I'm going to call this one new projectile BP, and open that up straight away. In here, I'm going to add a component, and I'm going to add a sphere collision, like so. On top of that, I'm just going to add a sphere, so a basic sphere there. And I'm going to make this a little bit smaller as well, so it fits inside the collision, like so. So now that's the basic visual part of my projectile setup. If we select our sphere collision again, we want to make sure that we tick simulate physics here on the right, under physics, tick simulate physics. Make sure we tick simulation generates hit events, so we can actually detect whether we've hit something or not. And we're also going to change the collision presets to be block all. So again, it can actually hit it. So that's a basic part of my projectile setup. We set up the visuals and the collision. So physics means we can move it, we can throw it. Hit events means so we can fire off event hit. And the block all is so it will actually hit it as well. Compile and go to the event graph. And actually we can save that and we don't need to do anything else in here. So we don't need to be in the event graph because you can do code in here if you want for hitting it. However, I'm not going to. So like I say, you can do code in here for event hit to see if it hits the deer, but I'm not going to do it in here because I want it to be different for each deer. So what I'm going to do is go back to my deer.bp here. I'm going to close that projectile. I'm just going to find some empty space again. I'm going to right click and get event hit, because like I say, we ticked hit event. Other is going to be cast to projectile BP, because like I say, I'm seeing if my projectile is overlapping it. You can do that for whatever you want. And then after this, I'm going to set damage, so we can set how much damage it does. And I'm going to set it to 10. So this projectile is going to deal 10 damage. You can set this up for whatever you want as well. So if you have a sword, you want to do more or less damage, change it for that. Which again is why I made the variable here, because then like I say, when we deal damage, it's going to take that variable off. So whatever we set that to, it's going to do the damage there, which will work perfectly for us. Then after that, I'm going to call function take damage, so it's actually going to take the damage. And then I'm going to get as projectile BP and destroy actor, just so the projectile disappears afterwards. So destroy actor like so. Select that, hit C to comment it, naming this one projectile hit. Again, name that whatever you want. and do it for whichever code you want to as well. So again, mine's for a projectile. And that's the basic code there of actually attacking it with a projectile. So if the projectile hits it, we're going to set the damage to 10 and then take damage. Very, very simple with the code we've just set up there. What we also want to do is select our capsule component, scroll down and make sure that we also tick simulation it generates hit events so that we can actually also hit the capsule component with this projectile as well. So make sure you've done that, compile and save. Then what I'm going to do is set up the functionality behind the player actually firing off this projectile. So I'm going to minimize this, go to my character blueprint, which is content, third person BP, blueprints, third person character, and then I'm just going to find some empty space and do some very simple basic code for this. So I'm not even going to set up an action mapping, however you can if you want. Again, this isn't the purpose of this video. So I'm going to right click and get a left mouse button, like so. So I imagine you've probably already got some code set up for attacking stuff. You just want to make sure that the animal can be attacked as well. So pressed is going to go into a spawn actor from class. The class is going to be a projectile BP there, or mine's new projectile BP. Again, this is for firing off a ball or something. Spawn transform, we're going to make transform like so, because we want to decide where we want to spawn this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click and get actor location. So we're going to get the location of the player currently. Out of this, we're going to get a vector plus a vector, a return value going into the location there. Let's straighten this up a bit. And what I'm going to add to this is I'm going to right click and get actor forward vector. Out of the return value of that, I'm going to get a vector multiplied by a float, and I'm going to multiply this by about 100. That goes into the addition there. Move this back over again. So what this does is going to spawn this sphere, or this projectile, 100 units in front of the player. So when they spawn it in, they're essentially firing off, starting 100 units in front of them, because that's the spawn transform. Rotation I'll leave as 0, scale I'll leave as 1. Everything else on the spawn actor we can leave the same. Then out of this, so the return value, we want to get sphere, like so. Mine will be sphere 1, like so. And then out of this, we're going to set physics linear velocity. Connect that to the spawn actor there, like so. So it's going to set the linear velocity of the sphere, which is obviously going to move it. The new velocity, we want to right click and get actor forward vector once again, so it's going to go in front of the player. Return value, we're going to once again get a vector multiplied by a float. This time I'm going to multiply it by 3000. With that, I'm going to the new velocity there. So it's going to get the forward vector, multiply that by 3000, or whatever you set it as, and set that as the new velocity to the amount of speed and force applied onto the sphere to push it forwards. Again, set that to be whatever you like. Everything else can leave the same, and that's the basic code for spawning projectile. So I'm going to select that, hit C to comment it, naming this spawn projectile. So when we press the left mouse button, we're going to spawn a projectile 100 units in front of the player, and then fire that off so it fires forwards with a speed of 3000 units as well. So we compile and save that. Again, basic code done for that. And if we close that, make sure that we just double check everything here, because that should be the code done. We've got to take damage. If it's not dead, we can then minus the damage from the health. And if it's dead, we can then play the animation for it dying, and then despawn afterwards. If it's not dead, we're going to play the animation for that, and then make sure it runs if it isn't dead. Regenerating health, we're going to see if we have less than the maximum amount of health, and if we're not running, and then we're going to add health gain to the health, again making sure it goes all the way up to the max health, otherwise it will then loop. And if we fire a projectile at it, it's just going to deal damage. So that should work perfectly. However, we haven't set up calling the regen health function. So what I'm going to do actually is on decide next action up here, what I'm going to do is just off of random roam here, I'm also going to regen health. Because once it's stopped running away, it's going to random roam and regen health. And you can put that off of all of these, so off of eat, rest, and random roam if you want, but I'm just going to do it from random roam. So that is a part of the code it needs to be in. It needs to be walking around in order to regen health. Sleeping might make sense for you as well, so you can put it in there. Again, put that anywhere you want, just not off of should run. Anywhere else works fine. And what I will also do is I will actually connect this up. So if we go back to regen health, I am going to connect the fault of this branch into this delay down here, just so it does loop it until we can do it. Again, you don't really need to do that, but I'm just deciding I want to. And now that should be the code working perfectly for us. So we compile and save, and I'll hit play to test this out. So we can get in, we've got our deer there. If I press left mouse button, you see we're firing off a projectile, like so. If I hit the deer, what's going to happen is it's hitting it, however it's not playing the animation. So it is hitting it and it's bouncing off, however it's not actually registering the hit. So let's see why that's happening. And I found out what the problem was, something you probably wouldn't have had an issue with. I'm casting to projectile BP, but the one I actually want to use is new projectile BP. So I just got the names mixed up, so cast to new projectile BP. Again, you probably won't have had that issue, because that's just because I have two different ones with two different names. I just got them mixed up, but this should now work for us. So again, that probably worked for you. If we hit play, test this again, we fire it at it, what happened was it despawned straight away. So let's have a look at why that happened. That's because I disconnected that, because I deleted the cast, that disconnected it from the destroy actor, so I'm making some silly mistakes there. But what I did was I deleted the cast, got another one, I forgot to reconnect the destroy actor there. But that shows that it is now hitting it. So let's try this one final time. If we hit it, what's going to happen is you saw there, it played the animation for getting hit, and then it's run away. So it played the animation for being hit, and now it's running away. And you see it's going to run away through as far as it wants to, and then stop, and then continue going about its day. You can see this is showing that the runaway code also works perfectly as well. If I hit it again, it's going to play the animation and continue running. If I keep on hitting it, it should die eventually, and again we're going to be adding sound effects to all of this in the future. So I can't remember how many times I do need to hit it, I forgot what the values I set were, but if we continue to hit it, it is going to die eventually, like so. So now it is dead perfectly like that, and again it's going to wait any time between 1 and 2 minutes before despawning. So I'll get back to you once that's happened, but once that does happen, I think that'll be it for this video. So we've done everything we want to do. We set it up so that we can deal damage to the animal, regen the animal's health, fire a projectile at it, and then kill it after we've dealt enough damage to it. And like I say, what's going to happen is 1 and 2 minutes after it's been killed, it will despawn. So you may have also noticed there that it just actually started moving. So that's what I was talking about earlier, where it might start moving while it's dead on the floor, which is why we set this here. So let's have a look at why that's happening. So I suppose a simple way to do this would actually just be to disable the movement. So that way it definitely can't move if we just disable its movement. So if we go back to our health damage here, so take damage, what we're going to do is if it's dead, what we're going to do before this play animation, we're going to simply just disable movement from the character movement there, like so. And then what we do is make sure that's all connected. And now this should work for us. We compile, save, hit play. And again, it's still going to work perfectly the same. And that will still be it for this video. So like I say, I just went over a complete overview of the video. That will still be it. I'm just going to make sure I kill it again. And get back to you once it's despawned after the set amount of time of it being dead. And then, like I say, that will be it for this video. So let me just try and kill it again. There we go, it's now dead. And we're going to wait the amount of time and I'll get back to you. So as you saw, it then despawned after a minute or 2 minutes. I wasn't counting how long, but it was between 1 and 2 minutes, and it then despawned like so. Which again, the player has probably left the area by then, so they won't see it. So again, that's going to be it for this video. I've gone over the overview just a minute ago. So thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed and I hope you found it helpful. And if you did, make sure to like and subscribe down below. So thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.